I'm so happy to have this chance to sit down, meet, and speak with Brendan Smullen. Brendan, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good, good, good. Happy Friday. We just finished up lead primer here at the studio. The team goes out for coffee afterwards, and I'm caffeinated as we are in Seattle, and I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Did you already practice this morning?
I had a light practice. I have a course I'm taking this afternoon, so I'm practicing right now, kind of a little bit more scattered than I'd like to. I also a few months ago, my partner and I have we now have a 3 month old, so that's that's changed my regularity
Oh,
with practice quite a bit.
oh my gosh, congratulations. Did you have a boy or girl?
We had a girl. She's lovely, no complications. Everything was great. She's beautiful. Mom's super happy. We're super happy. Parents, family is all really there for us. So it's been great. It's been really great.
Congratulations. That's a major life improvement. And what a change, right? I remember when before I had my first son or my child, my first child, I was still going down to the beach and doing a lot of things in the ocean. And people are like, "Get ready, man. You're gonna have a baby. You're not gonna have time to do this anymore." And I was like, "Oh, what are you talking about? I'll be able to do all this stuff, no problem." And then they were right. Things do shift, yeah, in a great
Yeah.
way, in a really good way. Are you getting any sleep?
I'm good. We've worked out a schedule that works really well for me. So like we have our studio is principally Ashtanga. So I'm teaching 4 hours most mornings. And then my partner and I are trading. I'm doing childcare through the afternoon and then helping her when she teaches in the evenings.
Very cool, Brendan. That's why I'm so excited to meet you. My wife and I do the same thing. How do you find it? How do you find it working with your spouse?
You mean like having like all the all the hats on in the relationship, partnership, and
Yeah,
business and all that?
yeah,
Um, I mean, I found it really rewarding because there's a shared mission that you have that kind of also anchors the relationship. I mean, at times, right, you wind up talking about work in places where you would rather have some separation. But I really I don't think that I could have carried community this far without like a really strong partner, and particularly because my partner, she's Latina, and we are a studio that strives to be inclusive. I think like that's a strong anchor for a lot of our community that sees someone who's in a leadership role, not in like a token way, who's guiding community, and supporting who isn't majority culture here, as is kind of often with a lot of studios.
yeah, Brendan. I can't agree more. When people ask me would I be able to do this without my wife? And I don't think I would want to try to run a studio without her after knowing how much weight she pulls and the amount of things she does that I'm not good at or don't want to do and vice versa. So it is an incredible thing. It's funny because when my wife and I started working and managing a studio together, we co-owned a Bikram studio in Mira Mesa down in California in San Diego. And people said this will either make or break your relationship because we often hear of couples that try to work together and they have a difficult time with it. But I found it to be absolute so rewarding and incredibly, I can't imagine it any other way. So it's cool to find another couple that are doing the same thing. How long have you guys had your studio prior to your arrival of your baby?
Yeah, wow. Yeah, the baby's been kind of recent. So we had Christian and I are coming up on 3 years of studio ownership. On the January the 4th, we celebrate our third year.
Congrats.
Um, before that, thank you. Before then, we kind of worked out of other studios, kind of patchwork to create Mysore style Ashtanga programming. But the change for us and why we decided to move a little bit more into having our own space is largely because it's very difficult to convince most conventional studios to take on, hey, every morning we're going to have this program. It's going to be a set sequence like the one depicted behind me, and your clients are going to come in and do the same thing. It's a really tough it's a really tough sell, when you're talking with business oriented folks. So we decided just to open our own space to support that.
Very cool. I can't agree more. You're hitting all the nails on the head. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you agree that holding down a Mysore style Ashtanga program requires that the studio owner either A, has fallen deeply in love with Ashtanga, or B, is run by somebody who, is actually teaching it, practicing it, loving it, and doing all of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I'm talking with folks in the program here, we have our own training program, or if I'm on travel and teaching, that's one of the first talking points that I have is just that we practice what we teach here. So most days, 5 to 6 days a week, I'm practicing Ashtanga, practicing the sequence as I was taught by my first teacher of the Manju lineage, Christina Martini, who's based in
Oh,
Italy. You know
cool.
Christina.
I had
She's a force.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
awesome. I had a chance to interview her here on the show, and she's awesome, man. She's in Maui, I believe, right now, right?
incredible woman. Yeah, she's a Maui. She's a Maui.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and she was the link for us. She introduced us to Manju and to his daughter Satu. Um, but yeah, in terms of like the day-to-day discipline with Mysore, I just stress that you have to show up for your students, clear-headed, and part of that is making sure that you do your practice, you clear out, whatever is in your system, whatever thought patterns that keep you from being, a good mirror and a good observer, and that requires that you practice consistently. So we stress that our teachers they are required to practice with us. I don't have to really have that conversation too often with folks, but they need to be showing up frequently as well, so that they can teach from a place of understanding a lot of the asana and the pranayama techniques that we do here.
Very cool. Can you emphasize and or speak on why you or what you notice is important about having the teachers be seen by the students practicing and having a practice? Can you talk a little bit about what you've observed there?
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that's actually I think a little unique in terms of it. So I'm in partnership with also an Ashtangi. I practice when she's teaching. When the time is available, we have a kid who will practice when I'm teaching. And then we kind of like are jumping in and out of the practice to take care of Amaya, our kid. But it's incumbent on Ashtanga teachers in order to practice, and I think it is also very helpful to pull the veil back sometimes, and kind of dismantle that kind of power dynamic between the teacher and the student, by showing that you're also practicing and working with difficult asana, and all the ripples that are underneath that, your own thought patterns and what comes up as you practice.
Very cool. How did you and your wife meet?
Yeah, wow, great. We were just going over this the other day with some of our curious students. Um, so both Christiane and I are practitioners not just of Ashtanga, but also of a progressive variant of Ashtanga. So she and I were both working on a project for like the rocket community, to help refine certain like teaching standards, and to set up sort of professional development opportunities for teachers of the style, particularly the senior teachers that have been practicing and training folks for a little while. So she and I were hired by David Kyle, who's based in Puerto Rico. He's a progressive Ashtanga rocket person, and he hired us for it was like a 4 month project. We were both working on this block, interviewing rocket teachers and talking about some of the standards and what rocket actually is, like what the practice actually is. Christian and I kind of we got to know each other a lot during that window. And when I moved to Seattle, I was retained for a 200-hour training, and at the time it was a pretty big lift for me. So I reached out to her and I asked, hey, this project's coming up. Would you like to co-lead this upcoming teacher training? And she said yes, and she visited Seattle a couple months beforehand, and we really, in a way, kind of like already like I was saying, we're mission focused on building yoga and community here in Seattle, and from there, just like a lot of like love and understanding came out, and we decided to also start a relationship from there.
Very cool. I love hearing about that. I'm finding it fascinating. I had a chance to practice with Larry Schultz, Rocket Yoga founder, a
Yeah.
long time ago, and it was really fun. And because I was very much into Ashtanga, I appreciated his storylines that he shared regarding I remember him saying that he really wanted to be an Ashtanga yoga teacher, and that the Ashtanga yoga clique was a little not accepting maybe of letting people teach. And so it was like very, elusive as how, when am I going to be able to be a part of the club where I can teach yoga? And him kind of going out on his own, and really it pretty much is Ashtanga, it seems like, but just with a lot of creative sequencing and a lot of intelligent sequencing, in my opinion. So I've noticed that it seems Ashtangis might migrate over toward Rocket for the creativity aspect. I'm fascinated that sounds like you were introduced to the Rocket style and have kind of gravitated toward the sequencing of Ashtanga. Can you tell me a little bit about what your experience has been, and then some of the thought processes behind why you're currently doing things the way you are?
Yeah, no, thank you. This is one of the topics I like to talk about when I'm on the road as well. So yeah, you described it really accurately, and probably because you practiced directly with Larry, you can sense like the intention was with Rocket to make Ashtanga accessible to Western bodies. So when folks are practicing and teaching Rocket, I think this is kind of reverted a little bit in modern times. Is the idea is that you're creating sequencing and postures that can be practiced by the maximum amount of people you can. So folks that are curious about Ashtanga but don't resonate with the structure of this self practice and the focus on self guidance for practice, they have a chance to modify an Ashtanga in a guided set. Now, I I resonate a little bit more with Ashtanga now because I've kind of found I think the thread or the family within the greater Ashtanga practice that I think accepts my teaching the most and also resonates with me as like for my philosophy for teaching because Manju and Satu and Christina as well are teaching around making the postures accessible. So in cases where you're practicing with a little bit more strict guidelines around like the coordinates, they're allowing for folks to perhaps not take a lotus position in certain shapes, take the foot under from Rachasana D, to practice into intermediate series, regardless of whether they do drop backs fluidly or not. These are things that I think from a body-based perspective are like very, very healthy choices. And I think prior to that understanding, I think Rocket does that as well. So there's a balance. There's a balance with it. The thing that I have found over time is that the approach with Ashtanga in the self-guided environment, I think, is much more in line with to go one stage up how Krishnamacharya would intend for practice. I think it is individualized, and I think self-practice is honestly the best way to establish your practice. If you're reliant on a teacher, a particular class environment, or people that are motivating or inspiring around you, then you're inherently tethered to a certain environment, and that can change. That can change. Just like if you're working out or you have a goal in partnership and your partner and you are no longer in partnership or your workout buddy is no longer available on the day that you want to work out, like your motivation is tied in with their attendance or their participation versus coalescing around a shared mission, which is kind of a different way to approach it.
Yeah, great answer, Brendan. Love it, man. That's cool. I can totally see that. What? Let me see. So let's pick a pose in the Ashtanga series. Let's go for let's start off in the very beginning realm. Let's go with Parvrita Trikonasana, twisting
Yeah.
triangle. And you have a student who, so they step out to the right, they did the triangle right, left side, they're coming in for their first side, and their right leg, their hamstrings are tight. They go to bring their left hand and they try to cross all the way over and touch the floor. It doesn't reach. And I'm curious, what is your go-to way to help educate this pose, help someone understand how to practice this pose? What are some of the modifications that you go to typically currently?
Yeah, perfect. And these are the kind of things that we teach. One is that your legs don't need to be fully straight in order to emphasize a hamstring stretch, especially if they're injured or tight. They're not they're just simply not going to straighten. And that's something that I personally felt when I started practicing Ashtanga. It's like, wow, how do I do all these? How do I do all these things? So for a student with tight right hamstring, perhaps one is that you don't need to necessarily cross the plane of the right leg with the hands to feel the twist. A lot of folks are twisting with some sort of a pelvic tilt, so their hips are doing some of the twisting for them. We try to emphasize keeping like a somewhat level plane, not for aesthetics, but so that you can actually use the mid spine, the thoracic spine for the twist. And so that might mean that the left hand in this case is actually coming inside your right foot. The other thing is that arms and legs are different proportions relative to the torso. So you may want to, and this is accepted by the Manju camp, right? You may want to use some props. You may want to adapt your practice a little bit. So put a small block down at a different level. Place your hand there, not with a lot of emphasis or weight in the hands. Do the twist from the mid spine as before. Um, and then that's most of that you can verbally cue for a student, and then that's where you can kind of make little adjustments manually, with consent with the student to help them emphasize the twist and find that alignment.
Nice. Yeah, great answer. I agree 100%. I like the idea, like you said, too, letting that front leg bend, even beyond, let's get like a chair where you keep your leg absolutely straight and maybe you put your hand on the chair because the block is too low, right? And
Mhm.
but that's a cool, I agree with you on that. Now let's jump ahead to something way more complex and wild and interesting, like in second series, Kapotasana, the back
Yeah,
bend,
yeah,
going back, grabbing the heels. Where are you at these days with the concept of back bending and how hard to push, how not hard to push, spinal uh, being gentle and taking care of the spine versus I gotta catch my heels? What has been
yeah.
I'm curious what your journey's been personally, and then how you're coaching students currently.
Yeah, and this is the other thing is like practitioners, like yoga practitioners versus the teachers that are teaching them. Like my practice is much different than some of the students that I'm teaching. Right, it's informed by me practicing the postures, but I don't impose my body privilege on other people. I just think that's kind of it's kind of the wrong approach. So for a very deep back bend, one of the deepest back bends in the series in the syllabus in its entirety, Kapotasana, you would want to make sure that students are engaging the legs. It's a thing that we all forget about. So hips are shifting a little bit more back sometimes when folks are setting up. I'm going to wind up modeling this in a moment anyway. But you're reaching back and over, and if the shoulder, mind you, right, a different range for the shoulders. The shoulders aren't available, then you may have to assign some preparatory work for folks to open there, especially for broader shoulders or for folks that work out a lot. They tend to collapse in a bit here. So you're gonna have to coach this kind of tonic imbalance between the pecs, right, and your rhomboids, your traps, your lats, in order to draw the shoulders back to get the hands over. Now, what's lovely about some of these shapes, I'm glad you asked about Kapotasana because a lot of people do ask me about some of these like gatekeeper poses, is that you have a lot of time to work on this. You have your lifetime to work on this. So give it a few months. Maybe the hands are coming over this far or here or here or here in time. And then there are also preparations that you can do for again for the for the legs, use of the wall, or using the teacher to push against the hips so that people are shifting far enough forward so that they can come down ideally and reach towards the floor or the feet directly rather than trying to kind of crawl in there.
Yeah.
Um, we do so many, but honestly, to be honest, Todd, I have to see your body. You have to come in
Yeah.
and we have to practice a little bit. Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, what a kind of impossible question to answer because it's going to be so specific to every single person. And I guess
Yeah.
I, have you, are you currently at a phase in your practice where grabbing your heels in a kapotasana is a reasonable thing to do?
Yeah, so I'm still really able-bodied, and thankfully, like Christian and I are both pretty driven and supportive of each other in terms of like what is accessible, in terms of like the day-to-day. So I am encouraged to meet the classic coordinates whenever possible. Um, I have for sure softened on some things though. The main one is um, applying 100% energy every practice. So right now I'm in a phase of my life where a really young child, um, where my practice may be sort of like a 70 or 80% effort some days. That might mean, not a lot of zest in some of the jump backs as much as I'm normally doing. That may sometimes mean, with time availability, that I'm only doing a portion of my primary, intermediate, advanced series practice, and then coming back to it later on the week or the next week and trying to go a little bit further. Um, I think it's really challenging to apply this sort of 5 to 6 day a week practice at the same time that you apply the same amount of energy because truly, like we're especially here in Seattle, it's gray, it's cold during the winter. Folks' energy level naturally falls, and I think it's reasonable to think that your practice might shift with you as it should.
I agree 100%, Brendan. I like your logic. Now you're holding down about 4 hours of teaching every day. Then you have to be a present dad to a young child. I remember, I mean, this sounds silly maybe, but when I remember being at home babysitting and I had this like big light bulb moment of like, oh, babysitting. That means you basically have to sit with a baby. You can't do anything else. Like you're not going to go take a shower. You can't really cook dinner. I mean, you you know, you can, but everything you're doing, you're literally just focused on this little person, 100%. And it takes energy, right? It takes energy. So how are you finding? I mean, I know you're 3 months new on this part of it. Even if you don't include child raising and you attempt to run a studio, keep your own practice going and still stay motivated. Now you've added a third element in here, which it adds a big element. How are you, or what do you go to find motivation and inspiration?
Well, the principal motivators for me right now, I do think about a lot about Amaya when I wake up in the morning, and it's
What what what
cold.
what is her name, please?
Her name's Amaya.
How do I spell
Amaya,
it?
Amaya.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Um, she's an incredible motivator because I want her to have a good life, and that's like the push for me to get up in the morning. And then my partner, who largely is taking care of the evenings and the overnights with feeding and with being up. Um, I know that I want to make sure that I'm alert and ready for her to practice as well. Um, and then the other piece that really does tether us and why it's really hard to talk on this without having some of the folks from the community here, but our community is very interconnected. Um, our our practitioners, they're in partnership with each other. They have a deeper kind of life conversation. They travel with each other. Their kids play with each other. They look out for each other. There's like dog sitting, house sitting, meal trains, all sorts of like wonderful aspects of like looking out. for things. So like when I think about like who's going to be in the room when I'm coming to teach, I'm also in the way that I'm planning for as an educator, like for what I want to work on with folks. I'm also like reminded that they are showing up for this community and for themselves, and that's very motivating to know
Yeah,
that people are doing that. Yeah.
for sure,
Because
man.
the thing I'll just sorry Todd to linger on it just for a sec, but the thing is like I said earlier, like if you're coming for if you're coming because you're accountability buddy or what thing, these are things to enter the practice, but over time you realize that there's like something beyond that does help. And I think Sangha right now, particularly in really trying times, can be quite motivating. It's there's a safety net that's in some of these communities, including ours, that I think allows folks to feel safe and to practice with frequency.
Oh man, isn't it amazing how powerful it is to see people benefit from the yoga practice and to yeah, I can't tell you how much. I know I had a friend come in this morning who comes and does a private, and I felt like I could genuinely say to him, I love my job so much. Like we had a bit of a challenging situation with a big expense that we have to cover for our studio. And maybe a little while ago, I would have been like a little stressed out about coming up with that sum to fix, the situation. And with this particular situation, I found myself feeling like I don't even care. I'll be able to cover it. I'll figure it out because I love doing this so much. It is so rewarding. So I love hearing that you're feeling that too. And can you tell me a little bit about, you said the word meal train, and that just like made me think, well, what a cool idea to set up some sort of way to integrate the community on a level of like, hey, I don't know how I'm going to be able to make dinner tonight, or what did you mean by that? What evolved for you, or what are you talking about when you say that?
Well, yeah. So folks cook for each other. They bring food in for each other.
Very cool.
Um,
So you
we
actually
do
have
we
like a
do that.
little, yeah, like what? They'll bring like not like a potluck, but you're saying like Susie will say, "Hey, I make good lasagna," and then someone will say, "I want some," and she'll bring some for him, or more like you guys take turns cooking dinner for each other.
Yeah. So it's not organized like like a progressive supper. I think that's the one. But when folks are out when they're sick, and most recently, like when Christiane and I were at home with Amaya, like our first 2 weeks of meals when we were out were all provided by the community. Our students came by and they would drop off like a healthy meal. A lot of them based on recipes that their parents made for them during childbirth. We have a lot of women who've gone through childbirth in the studio, and so these are like home recipes for like healing and for health that we're enjoying like during that window. That's happened a few times before. Folks have surgeries. Folks they're out for medical for some sort of medical situation, where we'll look out, bring food to, take care of dogs or pets or what have you. Those are all kind of like this like kind of mentality of like share the surplus. Like if you have time available to you and there's a need, right? Make a meal for someone or look out for someone. And the thought is, that kind of feeds into the collective, and then there's a little bit more energy for someone else to take care of someone. So it's an exchange that we've created with the community. Well, really that the community has created for itself, that helps to kind of sustain things.
I love this, Brendan. It's making me feel a little bit like we have this idea of nuclear family. You're in your house with your wife and child, and and then I'm over here, and then we have this idea of communal living, which, we have one big house and we all live in that one house and share the jobs. And I'm getting the feeling like you're somehow blending the two in a fairly organic and useful way. Am I getting it right?
Yeah, and honestly, like a lot of that hasn't been really like orchestrated. I'll just speak briefly on like probably our biggest community event is we go for coffee pretty much every weekend with each other, like 3 days straight, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Different availability and folks coming in those different days depending on their schedule. But that was all because one of our students was doing mock interviews with another one of our students during her office hours. So she was posting up at a coffee shop, um, and our other student would come and they would talk through, okay, if you're looking to re-enter the field, these are some things you should look at, and they would ping some questions off of each other. And because that space was like assigned as like the office hours, people were like, well, I want to go to office hours too if you're going to hang out. And so then a couple more people would come, and then we went, and then it just became sort of a community event natively. We didn't really push it. I mean, I like coffee a lot, so I was interested in going regardless. But it's like that motivation was more, hey, let's, because we often practice on our own and in the guided classes. I don't really entertain conversation during the class, so that was a chance for folks to get to know each other a little bit more.
Very,
And because of that, again, a lot of trust and a lot of giving that have come out of that.
very cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Great idea. What other ideas can you share?
Yeah, so if you're, and I hope some people, I do really think, if I had to have a soapbox to stand on for this podcast, um, I think I think folks that are looking to start a community around self-practice, Meister style Ashtanga, um, is look for ways for folks to connect organically and just be an enabler. The thing is, a lot of times, you'll have in your minds, like, oh, this will be like a really good thing to do because like this is something I want to do, and that's great. But there is a distinction, I think, as we look at a more community-based model and less like a teacher-driven model for these sorts of spaces. There's a little bit of grace for like what those ideas are, because folks will come up with them when they feel safe to like share their idea. It's the same way like in grade school or whatever, you're like scared to raise your hand in front of the class or whatnot. People will come up with these ideas natively, like we did a camping trip together. I didn't design that. My partner certainly is not inclined to camp. It was her first and probably only time she went camping with us, and and it was overall really good, but not something that I would have come up with. Just the teaching team decided, hey, we should have an event, and all we did was, hey, put the signage up, we'll put it in our newsletter, we'll put it in our messaging or whatnot, and we didn't get anything, we didn't really get anything out of it. It was just that the event is just really good, healthy for your community. Yeah,
Nice. Yeah, as opposed to say, this is a retreat. It costs this much. Buy your
yeah,
space and let's go. And I'm gonna make I'll benefit revenue wise. I like what you're saying. Yeah. It's just that, and then that way, maybe like you said, more of the community actually organizes it versus it being such a, now you have another job to do, Brendan. You have to like organize this big event. That's
yeah.
cool. That's a great idea. So where do you think this motivation and inspiration has come from? Is this something to facilitate such a strong community gathering experience as well as an Ashtanga space? Is this because you experienced this yourself practicing with Christina on Maui, or is it because you just thought, oh my gosh, we have a need for this? Like did it, how, where do you see, if you try to trace a little bit of a thread of your interest throughout your life and years, that you're here where you're doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, yeah. I have a lot of motivator, or I have a lot of inspirations for community builders. Christina absolutely is a very strong community builder, and she welcomed us in with open arms in her community, um, when we started practicing with her. So I think that she's a very strong exemplar for what it's like to lead, but also allow for kind of organic things within the space. There's a lot of other team building things that are happening with her. Um, I would say the other motivator for me, in terms of like the community building aspect, is here it's kind of a local problem, but in Seattle, folks are a little bit siloed because they're to some degree or another experiencing seasonal affect, and they have challenged by the gray weather. And for me, this practice, because you're up early, it's helping you to regulate circadian rhythm. I think that's really of service to folks here. Um, and yeah, unfortunately, because of the seasonal affect, folks tend to not be as friendly during those times. So it's also a reminder that even though it is kind of challenging and we hibernate a little bit, um, that we're still humans and we're still here to connect with. We're communal animals. So we just provide a space for folks to remember that.
Yeah, that's cool. I have heard that's a real thing. My sister was living in Seattle for a while and she really found it challenging. Uh, she found it challenging and I've heard about it and I just kind of thought, oh yeah, that's interesting. Like here in sunny Florida, you're like, well, okay, that's a nice idea. But I hear that's a real deal thing, right? Being in the gray for a while can affect you, can affect the mood.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the other piece to mention is, and Christiane's not here to say her piece around this, but like also like as a Latina, she's from a culture where it's like very warm and welcoming. You're with folks all the time, always in community. You're welcoming of like the friends, cousins, like neighbor or whatnot, like comes to the family gathering as well. So it's like a very integrated network. So I would say that a lot of the community building also I think has come out of an extension of her understanding of that and my appreciation as an Anglo of like that approach.
Yeah.
Like every time
Yeah.
I'm in Latin America, it's beautiful. It's
That's
wonderful.
that's cool. I have an idea for you, Brendan. I think you need to write a book about community building.
um, thank you. It's funny because someone was telling me that the other day. Well, telling Christiane and I, like I think it's our story at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe I can put a little handprint or something in there too. She's been a big
I was
a
just
big
gonna I was gonna ask you, have you read a book that you could recommend that highlights some of the things you're talking about, which then made me think, it actually maybe Brendan should write the book. But have you come across a book that highlights this subject that's interesting? I don't even know if there's a book out there. I'm gonna look when we're done. See if there's something.
yeah.
I love reading about these sort of things. So I was just curious if you came across something that's like build community, like a resource to kind of say, hey, you guys, this is important. Let's build community. Let's focus on this because it's something that maybe if we don't put attention on it, it just won't, it might not happen naturally. I mean, I do believe a lot of this stuff does occur naturally, but I like the fact that you're putting this sort of attention on it. It seems important. It's like you said, especially today, because there's a lot of division. So I think anything we can do to get people together is a wise move.
Certainly. Yeah, a couple titles come to mind, but they're not books that I personally have read, so I can't recommend. I
Okay.
can't recommend. I'm super backlogged on my reading.
Yeah, it's going to be a little while before you're going to have time to do
I know
that.
I don't have an abundance of free time right now, but that's also an excuse. Like I'm reading. I'm reading right now a little bit on kind of like mindful masculinity, but that's not really related to what we're
Yeah.
what we're talking about here.
Can you say,
But yeah, no,
say that again? Mindful masculinity?
yeah. So as I'm going to be a new as I'm going to be this is a book that actually was gifted to me. My mother-in-law gifted to me at her last trip. She came up for 2 months to help take care of the kid. So at night I've been reading a little bit from it. I've just started a few days ago, and it's been nice to kind of examine from a perspective of okay, how are we reinforcing sort of like gender norms? Like what how do we identify as I start to identify as a father now? It's still like kind of like insane to me sometimes to remember. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I have this tiny human that's tied to me genetically and bonded and um, how do I provide for flexibility in terms of like expression? So like like not necessarily predetermining like how she wants to view the world or how she wants the world to view her. That's also incumbent on me to determine, like how was I raised and how was I reinforced in terms of like those gender norms.
Yeah. Oh, I know, man. One of the biggest things in the whole world is when you become a parent and then you take introspective look at the way that we view the way our parents raised us, we then start to either knowingly or unknowingly do the exact same thing. And the awareness that comes from witnessing doing the things that our parents did that we did not really appreciate it in the time, but then all of a sudden going, well, this makes more sense now. I kind of understand why they did do that with me, and so it's wow, man, what a journey. Well, that's cool that you're reading, getting some insights. I'm with you, man. I love reading books when you get into a new project, like especially parenting. You're like, maybe there's some information out there I could pick up on that's going to make this a little easier slash make me more productive at what I do.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
awesome. Very, very cool. Can you talk a little bit about, I haven't had an opportunity to meet and or practice with Manju yet, and I'm really excited because I just organized to do a podcast with Satu, his daughter, and so I'm excited for that. It's coming up next month, but I really want to practice with him. I've only heard incredible things about him over the years. And so, can you share a little bit of light, shed a little bit of light on what your experience has been and why you would recommend somebody to go practice with him and or his daughter, Satu?
yeah, absolutely. And we hosted Satu in the fall. She's wonderful. I enjoy the podcast. Enjoy the time. She's such a wealth of knowledge. Um, Yeah, I would encourage folks to practice with Manju to see kind of his perspective. Given, remember that his timeline, he practiced directly with Krishnamacharya, so it's kind of an interesting perspective you can ask him about. I think for folks that are looking to practice with him, he is a little bit I think selective in terms of like who he wants to teach at this phase of his life, um, because he's been teaching for so long, and because he does host in his home the practice. So you're in an environment when you're practicing with him, it's no more than 12 or 13 people that can practice in the space at one time. So it is quite intimate. You can really feel his presence, his observation, his adjusting is very sound. He's very in tune with your body and breath. Uh, and the sessions that follow, like he's usually teaching a little bit of pranayama. There's some mantra, some chanting, and then we'll have a little bit of time to talk about the philosophy and to do depending on if you're practicing or if you're coming in as a teacher. They'll sometimes show some of the adjusts. So yeah, I would ask Satu more about that process because it's not just like open source. It's a you request and you talk about your experience, and it just he especially in light of recent shifts in the Ashtanga world, he's just very mindful. It's like he doesn't want a sudden influx of folks coming into his home to practice. It's my understanding that he would rather have a smaller, more concentrated community with that's value driven like he is, than like a really broad following. Like he's pretty quiet in terms of like he does have a social media handle, but I've never seen him put anything on there. Like it's 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 more so a space where you're going for subtle refinement and to have some time to hear from him about his like hearing from him about okay, what was it like to practice with Batavi, what was it like to practice with Krishnamacharya. This is like incredible that this knowledge is available to you. So yeah, I would encourage folks if they're interested, but come in with some humility. That's my biggest learning lesson. Right when I started Ashtanga, I was so strong headed and so like I am like this, and I show up a certain way, and I had to be strong every practice, and it's just not. This life is just not that. Um, Life, unfortunately, is going to teach you something about impermanence, and part of that is how you show up. You have to be understanding with yourself.
Yeah,
So,
great advice, Brendan. That's cool. I appreciate it. I didn't know that. I actually was unaware of the method that he's teaching currently. That's good to know. Have you ever invited him to teach a workshop at your studio, or is he not really interested in doing the whole travel gig right now?
he does travel. I haven't approached him about this. I'm just very happy personally to be invited into practice. Um, I do think though, and you should talk to Satu about this because she is a strong voice for the community and she has a lot of integrity in what she does. Is talk to her about what carrying on this legacy is meant for her because um, she really, our community, in light of this last year, there's been a lot of shifts in the Ashtanga world. I'm not going to name them, and I don't really want to talk about them directly. But she provided a lot of reassurance to like the community about what they're doing, the path that they're on when she was here, and really held space in a way that I think is kind of beyond her years.
Right.
But it's quite incredible.
Very cool. I appreciate all that insight. Thank you so much. To take you down one more road before we wrap it up. The world of yoga philosophy, in my opinion, is so vast and rich. So obviously we have a whole lifetime to pick up what we can get from here and there. Can you share a little bit about what what strand or aspect of the all the knowledge that comes from this tradition is really resonating with you these days, and or a little bit of a timeline of your evolution of, a lot of people jump in first with Yoga Sutras and then maybe they read Bhagavad Gita. And then if they keep getting more interested, maybe they go a little further. And
Yeah.
so either what's really exciting for you right now or your overall trajectory that you've taken over the years.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. It has shifted quite a bit. So I started in terms of the philosophy with the sutras. I think it's a pretty common track for folks to find it that way. And I guess my first few reads were the way that many folks right approaching like an institutionalized religion. It's like the word is the word, and that's how it is. And then as I've kind of gone back on that, I've also seen, okay, there are interpretations, there's commentary, there's a lot of diversity of opinions around the sutras, and then there are some things that it's sort of like, you know, like like the cities and like being able to grow in different size or shrink it. It's like, okay, if I were to take this all quite literally, I might be approaching my yoga practice a bit differently. Um, I've been inspired most recently because I have a pranayama meditation teacher who has been teaching me a little bit of Advaita Vedanta. I've been inspired most recently by Ramana Maharishi and his teachings. So I've been reading some of his discourse with his students. Talking about the perception of reality, um, focusing on kind of this space between stimulus and response, and really the understanding that space is most of what's occurring. I think has really allowed me to find more peace and ease with life. Um, so that's not exactly in line with the teaching for the sutras, and it's not something that I usually am working with our trainees here. But it's definitely brought me a lot of ease lately to just kind of watch the screen, watch the projections of what's going on, watch my own thoughts and what's going on, and and to just be a little bit more at ease with the fact that from a very objective standpoint, I'm just here, I'm seated, and I'm breathing. That's the reality of what's going on. Everything else is kind of illusory. Like our response to, oh, this is hard, or our thoughts quickly. I know everyone who meditates is immediately resonates with. It's like I have a thought on the thought. Oh, I'm not meditating. Okay, the thought there, and it goes. And be able to drop in more efficiently has been really wonderful. It's been a great practice.
Nice, Brendan. Awesome, man. I appreciate hearing all that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
You know, I love podcasting so much, and I just have to say that I thoroughly enjoyed this. I love meeting another, yoga teacher, practitioner, dad, studio owner, lover of philosophy, and humble human. What a pleasure, man. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day and your busy schedule. And I just want to thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate what you're doing. The way that you're kind of gathering is, to your question earlier, like like what books you're reading or how are you building community. You're doing it. You're already doing it, and that's wonderful. And I think the folks online are really appreciating the coalescing that's happening around this. They're learning a lot, and they're appreciating some of these guests and you for hosting them. So
Oh
thank you so
man.
much for your time in this endeavor. It's a big endeavor. No, it's a huge endeavor, and you're taking a lot of time, a lot of your limited time, right, to do this is wonderful. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for noticing. And I had a realization this week because I'm a very, once I start doing something and I get on a routine, I really stick to it. And so I try to do one every single Friday. And with the Thanksgiving holiday, and I got a little behind on getting, it's a big process to reach out to people, have them say yes, find a time that actually works, and then have it all work out where we show up at the right time and everything. And so I haven't missed a Friday, and it's been a year, a little over a year. I've been really, really focused on it. And then I missed a Friday, and I had so much like, what's the right way to say this? Like, I was like, I can't miss a Friday. And I was like, no, man, you can definitely miss a Friday. Like, well, come on, what are you even doing to yourself here? Like, this is just for fun, right? Isn't it for fun? And I thought, yes, this is just for fun and education and just keep it light. Like, and this is a pattern that I've watched myself do with everything, with practice. And then even when I got into podcasting, it became like another form of practice for me. So I just want to say thank you for acknowledging that it does take quite a bit amount of time, and having the 1 week off, like today's Friday, so I always publish Friday morning. So like I said, I'm not doing it this Friday. I'm going to wait till next Friday. And it was Thursday night, and I didn't have to do all the work I have to do to get it ready. And my wife and I were hanging out, and I kind of went, wait a minute, this is kind of nice. I'm like, I'm kind of digging not doing an episode this week. Like, this is amazing. So, I just want to say thank you for noticing. And it is fun, but I just wanted to say all that just because it's classic how life is. So thank you, Brendan. I really appreciate, and I can't wait to share this. And I hope to come to Seattle. I've never been to Seattle, and
Please.
I'm a huge grunge fan. So man, to go and tour and see where Kurt Cobain
Yeah.
lived and all that stuff, dude, that'd be an awesome trip. And I hope to come practice with you. I'd love to come out to your studio, or if you're ever in Florida, please let me know. I know we're on the opposite ends of the country, but maybe we can make it work someday.
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, please. And there's a million venues for like they're really small venues where you're intimate um with the show scene here. So like you
Oh
really get to
man,
know the band. It's great.
that would be
Please,
incredible.
please make it
Thank,
make a weekend out of it and come out. Yeah.
thank you, Brendan. I can't wait. Have a great day.